Rogue64 was one of those games which truly impressed me when I covered it on the channel some time ago. The way in which it took cues from Rogue and other such dungeon crawlers, streamlining mechanics to the point where, despite being turn-based, it had the spirit of an action game, which really made it stand out. Developer Badger Punch Games weren't content to rest on their laurels though, choosing not just to convert Rogue64, but enhance it for the Amiga, resulting in Roguecraft. In turn, Roguecraft received its own enhancement, originally for the Evercade platform, which is now finally returned home to the Amiga. But it's not that version I'm interested in. Not at all. Instead, I'm more excited to play its first two non-Amiga conversions. The first, going portable on the Game Boy Color thanks to Rocket Ship Park, and that means it's convenient for a little bit of dungeoneering when you're on the go. As for the second, that's for the Mega65 handled by RetroCogs, the machine which serves as the implementation of the unreleased Commodore 65. And that makes for a bit of a nice callback to Rogue 64, with its successor being played on the hardware successor to the Commodore 64. So with my curiosity struck, it's time to explore these 8-bit conversions of a dungeoneering gem. Like Rogue 64, Roguecraft has you delving deep into the depths of the dungeons of Mordecai, all in search of riches and magic and power. The driving goals for a lot of humanity, it feels like these days. For as much as I loved Rogue 64, I did feel it was a little limited once you mastered the challenge. Thankfully, Roguecraft makes a number of changes which give you plenty of reasons to not only go for another run when you've beaten it, but also allows you to augment the challenge as well. And the first of these is your character choice. Before starting, you've got the choice of one of three: Warrior, Rogue, and Wizard. The Warrior offers the easiest challenge, having the most strength and health potential, making survivability and ease concern compared to the others. The Rogue comes next, with a reduction in max health and strength, but is countered by a few neat tricks in their bag, namely permanent access to a teleportation spell. Not only can this get you out of trouble when you're in a jam, but if you happen to get close enough to an enemy after using it, you can backstab them for a quick kill. Things are even tougher for the Wizard, who unsurprisingly has even less health and strength potential. But this is countered by the power of the magic missile. You can use these to attack enemies at range, and you're not restricted in how much you can use it. And that's an important way to really sort of strategize and keep yourself out of danger by attacking from a distance rather than at close melee range. Where Roguecraft truly builds up from Rogue 64 is with its room designs. While each level of the dungeon shares the same 5x5 grid for room placement, individual rooms themselves have a spacious 10x10 grid. Not only does it allow for more interesting room layouts, but the rooms themselves offer some creative new tricks in order to trap you. Whether that comes in the form of gusts of flame, pools of acid, or the kind of spike traps a prince may find in Persia, you can't just blindly rush into a room. Even better, they can trap enemies too. Well, some of them at least. So if you're feeling a little overwhelmed by the threats within a room, it might just be possible to turn the tables and lead an enemy into a trap and lighten the load just a little bit. Fighting enemies isn't just a means to clear the path ahead out of a room. If you defeat enough of them, you'll spawn a gem which can increase your max strength or health points. This is how you're going to become capable enough to survive those deeper levels. Enemies can be seriously strong, and they can knock off most of your health in a single attack once you get quite a few levels in. Now, outside of some divine intervention, which you might find when you get a few levels deep, and gives you one life to try again without restarting, surviving the dungeons is really all about careful management of your health. Sure, there's refills. If you find a health pickup, a little heart, or the green potions, they'll refill your health to max. And of course, when you increase your max health, you'll get a refill as well. But if you can't hold on to those potions, you're never going to make it all the way down. Unsurprisingly, things do start getting a little rarer once you're getting deeper into things. Joining those green potions are red and blue potions. though unlike the green ones, their effects are randomized for each run. Sometimes you get something beneficial out of them, a temporary buff to strength, or clearing the room of enemies. Maybe you'll become invisible for a few moments, or pause the passage of time, freezing enemies in their tracks. There are enough of them out there to help you get out of a pickle. I did find it funny that the RNG was not in my favour all that much, as I had several runs, at least we're playing the Mega65 version, where the game gave me the same pair of potions consistently. And they weren't ones that were all that useful for my particular playstyle. I did find things randomised a bit better on the Game Boy, so maybe that was just cosmic rays or something getting in the way, I don't know. It is how the cookie crumbles after all. But you know, can't help but feel a little disappointed I didn't get to try out a wider variety of the powers when I was recording all the gameplay footage. I would love to have been able to show off more as I was putting the video together. Now, you've got resource management, you've got knowing the rooms and their traps. The final part of survival is how to be smart with fighting enemies. I find sometimes you need to work out how best to cross a room without them getting in the way. Especially if you're fully aware that a single hit from one of them will end your run dead there. That all contributes to making Roguecraft DX a truly unique experience for me. The foundations, the core that comes from Rogue64 is brought over intact, and it shows that a strong gameplay core, mechanical core, can greatly give you the potential to elevate an experience. Now, the choice of characters, the larger room layouts, the addition of traps, an expanded gallery of monsters, and the environments and the traps, all of these are layers which expand the experience and really add that depth and replayability, which I find is going to keep me coming back a lot more to Roguecraft than Rogue64. As much as I enjoyed it, that game didn't really have much of a replay unless you want to try and beat your score. But there's also a few fun little things, particularly like the secret rooms, which you want to keep your eyes open for. They may not be filled with treasures, but sometimes you might just find an interesting thing to help keep you going as you continue your descent. The challenge of Roguecraft DX is how well it sets you up for replays over the long term. And that's not the only way at which it excels, as there's some great, well-crafted visuals too. In fact, this might be controversial, but the Mega65 version is easily the best looking one. If only because the way the hardware is used, it allows for more colours than the Amiga original, which was designed for, A500 class machines. Unsurprisingly, the Game Boy Color eschews the isometric view that the base game runs with, and goes for sort of a more of a top-down kind of sidey view. This is done primarily to allow a whole room to fit on a single screen, and there's some neat trickery done which makes this happen. Though, it comes at the expense of pushing the level map. Instead of being in the corner of the screen as you find on the Mega and the Amiga, it's a overlay that you have to hit the B button to display. For me, that's a small price to pay. I'd rather have the whole game on a screen without needing to scroll so you could see everything at a glance. And honestly, I only really needed to bring the map up once I completed a room and was going to work out where I needed to go next. As for the sound, both these machines, the Mega65 and the Game Boy Color, tackle it in different ways. Mega65, of course, implements multiple SID chips to spread the load, while the Game Boy Color has its classic Game Boy 4-channel hardware. And both of these convey the dread that you expect to find when you're descending deeper into these dungeons really damn well. It feels there's a good dark atmosphere that the audio provides. Now, the Mega65 version sticks to a single in-game track. They weren't able to squeeze them all in the time, but I didn't find it was that repetitive to listen to. There are a lot of games where they run the same background tune constantly, and it gets a little tiring after a while. I really didn't find that to be the case here. The soundtrack is composed fairly well for the SIDs here, and I think that's incredibly important, that it doesn't drain you out over time. It won't drive you senseless, and I think it does a great job of that. The last piece of the Roguecraft DX package is the high score table. Rogue64 only kept a single score and that wasn't saved, but Roguecraft gives you a top 5 and that actually is saved to disk or the cartridge. And it's great to just have that handy to show your friends, to taunt your friends, to see if they can beat you when it comes to, those challenges, the kind of challenges that were fun for back in the day. I think it's a great feature to have. And all of this makes Roguecraft DX a great successor to the IDs of Rogue64. The IDs that it established. I mean, once again, the way that Roguecraft carries on with streamlining the IDs and mechanics that games like Rogue and other dungeon crawlers in that style presented, and streamlining them to the point where it's almost like an action game, really goes a long way, I feel, to making this more approachable for those who might be curious about the genre, but have struggled to get into those other games. Rogue and other games like it tend to bring a lot of information on the player, and a lot of things that can vary between runs, and here with Roguecraft, there's not that much that varies outside of the levels and the potions, so it's a lot more to manage, and it makes it far more approachable, and that's honestly no small accomplishment. To be able to preserve that core and expand what it can do and add all these extra features to the game, but still keep it playable and easy to pick up, that is a testament to the design work that Badger Punch have done here. And regardless of which version of the game you're going to do, the original design comes over oh so well, and is oh so interesting as a result. I spent a good chunk of time with both the Mega65 and Game Boy versions. I wanted to, play them both from here. And the thing is, I had a great time with both. Either one is a winner. I expect that I'm going to see myself playing the Game Boy Color version more, if only because it's portable. I can have it on the go while I'm sitting outside or riding public transport or whatever. I can play it there and then. Whereas the Mega, I've got to have it set up. I've got to play it at home experience. But I can't underestimate how special it feels to load Roguecraft up on the Mega65. Not only because, as I've just espoused, it's a great conversion of a cool game, but it brings something to the table that's been sorely lacking there. The kind of big ticket experiences that sort of show, hey, this hardware is special and it can do a lot. This is an 8-bit computer, yes, with a greatly accelerated processor and a bunch of features, but it handles it as well as the Amiga. In fact, the Rube transitions are a lot faster because it just has to pull from RAM, and some smart tricks there. But it's a shame that that Roguecraft on the Mega65 is probably going to be the version that most people won't get to play, because it's a bit of a chore to set up the emulator and get the ROMs properly prepared if you don't have actual Mega65 hardware because of the licensing. But regardless of which one you pick, whether it's the Amiga original because you've got an Amiga setup or easy to use UAE, or you want to go for the Game Boy to enjoy it on the go, whatever. Both of these versions, any version of the game is well worth your time playing. So no matter which you've got access to, you're going to get a lot of challenge and a lot of joy delving deep into Modicum and finding those treasures and seeing if you can get down there. Which for me, well, that makes it the perfect spot to draw things to a close. As always, I can't really offer much more to say than to just thank you all very much for watching. If you really enjoy what I'm doing here, it would really mean something if you could, click a like, help the usual things. Those call to actions are annoying, I know, but it helps the video get out there to more people, and that helps make this little project a little more survivable. Things are interesting for me at the moment, and you'll see what I mean. But again, thank you all ever so much for watching.